We're here at Bravo Motorsports to do an LS1 install into a 240SX using a Siki mount kit. Now we're ready. This is the Siki complete installation kit for the 240SX. This is the sway bar from Siki that is required if you want to run a sway bar with your LS1 swap. These are the Siki ceramic coated headers. These are the engine and transmission mounts. These are the power steering lines. This is the custom length drive shaft for the 240SX. This is the high capacity 7-quart oil pan with 1/2-inch rail and custom pickup tube. This is the clutch master cylinder conversion kit. This is the area that needs to be bashed in for the transmission to clear. Here we have both clutch master cylinders. This is the Nissan Factory 240 and the Siki supplied 3/4 Willwood. The reason for the swap is the factory Nissan does not have enough fluid volume to depress the T56 clutch. Here we have the factory slave cylinder with the Siki supplied -3 conversion fitting for the feed line and the conversion fitting for the remote bleeder. As you can see, Willwood supplies their master cylinders in a vertical mounting position, 12 and 6. Factory Nissans are horizontal. We need to install this adapter plate onto the Willwood. We will now be removing the factory oil pan. Now I will be applying silicone to the rear mate seal housing area where it meets the block. Here is a Siki supplied oil pan gasket. Lay it on top of the block. Using an 1/8 NPT tap, put threads into the hole where the dipstick tube used to go. This is a Siki supplied oil pump pickup tube. Before we install the oil pan, we need to install the oil filter relocation fittings. Have a friend hold the oil pan while you snug up the fittings. The end result should look like this. The fittings should not protrude past the pan rail. Siki supplies one Allen head bolt that needs to be installed in this location on the front of the oil pan. I'm ready to install the motor mounts. The motor mounts are engraved on the bottom side with a P and a D. In addition to the Siki mount kit, these are some of the parts that are needed to complete the swap. Mishimoto radiator, shroud, and fans. Mishimoto LSX specific 240SX hoses. ACT twin disc clutch. Our own Bravo Motorsports 2-in-1 3-inch stainless steel exhaust. Chase Bay's race chassis LS1 swap harness, and a T56 transmission. This is how the ACT twin disc comes assembled. I will show you how to disassemble it to gain access to the flywheel. We're going to be installing the flywheel using the factory bolts. In a crisscross pattern, the first stage of torque is 15 foot-pounds. Next, I'll be installing the starter. Before you stab the drivetrain in, we need to remove the steering coupler. We need to remove the steering coupler from the shaft and from the power steering rack and pinion. Now we'll be installing the drivetrain into the 240SX. Coming down a little bit, Joe. We like to coat our OEM GM gaskets with a little bit of copper spray before we install the headers. I'm going to bring the header bolts in loosely with a 1/4 inch air ratchet and a 10mm socket. These are the components supplied by Siki to install the T56 transmission. We are at the point of the swap where we are ready to install the Siki supplied drive shaft. Working underneath the vehicle, install the Siki transmission mount. These are the oil filter relocation lines from Siki. Here is the clutch hydraulic line. We are now going to route it underneath the brake booster and onto the Siki supplied clutch master cylinder. For the brake booster vacuum hose, we used a number 8 push lock hose to go from the intake manifold to the OEM one-way check valve on the brake booster. With the motor set in its final location, I wanted to show the clearance between the Siki oil pan and the factory crossmember. Notice it has plenty of clearance and you do not have to modify the crossmember. We are using an aluminum Mishimoto radiator, aluminum fan shroud, and dual fans. I want to give a thanks to Mishimoto for providing us the entire cooling system for this project. It allows for easy integration of an LSX motor into a 240SX chassis. The radiator simply drops into the factory location. Next, I will be installing the Mishimoto cooling reservoir. We will be going underneath the vehicle to install the lower radiator hose. Now on to the upper radiator hose. For this project, we chose to use the Chase Base Race Chassis LS1 swap harness. Over on this end of the harness, we have the 2 PCM connectors, the OBD2 port for tuning and diagnostics, and the Chase Base 16-pin connector. Over on this end are all the connectors for the sensors. We are using NGK TR6 spark plugs that get torqued to 15 foot-pounds. I will now begin the installation of the Chase Base LS1 race chassis harness. One of the long tails of the Chase Base harness has the alternator trigger wire, the MAF connector, coolant temp sensor connector, intake air temp connector, idle air control valve connector, and TPS. You want to route the harness underneath the intake manifold, in between the intake manifold and the water pump. With the harness routed underneath the intake manifold, we can now install the throttle body. This is the inlet tube that we made. We used a 4-inch 90-degree silicone coupler, 2 T-bolts, a section of 4-inch aluminum piping, and a 4-inch K&N air filter. We drilled the pipe, installed the grommet, and installed the intake temp sensor into it. This is the part of the harness that we already routed underneath the intake manifold. Attached to it is this junction that has the fuel injector clips. Go ahead and connect the fuel injectors. Now I'm connecting the right bank coil packs. Following along the harness, you'll run into another junction point. This junction has the cam sensor, knock sensor, map sensor, oil pressure sending unit, right side ground, left side ground. Following the harness along, you'll run into the driver's side coil pack connectors and fuel injector connectors. Next, I'll be doing the connectors that go underneath the vehicle. The VSS, the reverse lockout, and the driver's side O2 sensor. Next, I will be working on the main power and ground distribution. For the power side, get a 2-foot length of cable from any auto parts store. It's going to go from your battery to your factory fuse box. The ground cable is the factory Nissan ground cable. Then Chase Base supplies a charging harness that's going to go from the fuse box to the starter, and from the starter to the alternator. These are the wires coming off of the Mishimoto fans. Blue are the positives, black are the negatives. Route the throttle cable underneath the fuel rail crossover. Attach the cable to the throttle body and bracket. This is the Chase Base 16-pin fuse and relay block. It goes connected to the 16-pin connector that is by the two main PCM connectors. In order to attach the dipstick tube bracket to the cylinder head, you need to remove the spark plug wire that is in the way. At the time of filming, there was no bolt-in solution for an exhaust for an LS1 into a 240SX. What we did is what you see here. A 2-into-1 stainless steel exhaust that we made out of 3-inch U-bends. Next, we'll be installing the exhaust. Siki provides you with 2 V-band clamps and 2 V-bands so you or a shop can fabricate the exhaust. We're all done. Let's fire up the engine. Our shop and track car is a 1992 Lexus SC300. It has a turbocharged LS1 swap. We built the motor using Manley internals, consisting of Manley forged rods, Manley forged pistons, Manley intake, and exhaust valves. So I want to give a big thanks to Manley for supporting this project. The swap is now complete. I want to give a big thanks to my lead technician, Joseph Gonzalez, for all of his hard work. Thank you, Joe. And a big thanks to all of our sponsors, Siki, ACT Clutch, Mishimoto, Chase Base, and Manley Performance Products. All the products you see on the video are available on our website, bravomotorsports.com, or feel free to give us a call at 559-239-5204.